The month of July 2025 brought a heavy, unpredictable air to the Ebute Metta area of Lagos State, setting the stage for an event that no one saw coming. It was a period marked by an attempt at harmony that would ultimately take a tragic turn for the community, specifically leading to the loss of the leader of the Black Axe confraternity within that jurisdiction. The trouble didn't start with a confrontation, but rather with a football match, a game organized with the peaceful intent of bringing people together on a common ground. Among the players gathered on the pitch were members of both the Black Axe and the Airlords. For 90 minutes, these individuals were expected to function as a single unit, wearing the same jerseys and chasing the same goal. However, the reality of the situation was far more complex than a simple game of sports. Because the teams were composed of members from rival groups, the air was thick with a tension that was impossible to ignore. Every man stepped onto the field carrying a heavy sense of personal pride and a specific orientation that had been drilled into him over years of affiliation. To truly work together as a team, each player would have needed to set aside his ego and drop the rigid pride associated with his group. The match was designed to be a test of the ability to coexist, but as the play intensified, it became clear that the internal barriers were too high to climb. Instead of yielding for the sake of the team, the players clung to their individual identities and the status they held outside the white lines of the pitch. They refused to bend, and that inability to let go of their rivalries turned a gesture of peace into a volatile situation. This refusal to compromise was a costly mistake, and the repercussions of that stubbornness eventually led to a sudden and unfortunate outcome that changed the landscape of the area's leadership forever. As the final whistle blew across the Ebute Metta pitch that July afternoon, the atmosphere did not relax. Instead, it tightened like a coiled spring. This match was never just about the sport or the fleeting hope of peace. There was a much more grounded and desperate motivation driving every tackle and every run: money. Both sides had come together to put up a significant stake, a collective pot of cash that represented the hard-earned contributions of every player on the field. To raise this sum, the young men had dipped into their pockets, some giving more than they could afford, all in the hopes of walking away with a winning share that would make the sweat and the risk worth it. When the winner was finally declared, the focus shifted instantly from the ball to the bag of money. What should have been a moment of celebration for the victors quickly curdled into a bitter dispute. As the team gathered to divide the winnings, the fragile cooperation they had maintained during the game shattered completely. The argument started low but rose quickly in volume and intensity. One group of players claimed they deserved a larger slice of the pie because they had done the heavy lifting on the field, scoring the goals and defending the lines. On the other side, those who had contributed a larger portion of the initial stake argued that their financial risk entitled them to a bigger payout. It was at this exact juncture that the pride they had tried to suppress during the match came roaring back to the surface. In a neighborhood like Ebute Metta, where respect is often the only currency a man truly owns, being told your contribution is worth less than someone else's is a direct insult. Because these men weren't just neighbors, because they carried the heavy, conflicting orientations of the Black Axe and the Airlords, every word spoken in anger was viewed through the lens of their rivalry. A simple disagreement over currency transformed into a challenge of authority. The peaceful match was forgotten as the players reverted to their roles as rivals, and a serious altercation erupted that no one could pull back. The situation turned from a verbal shouting match into a deadly physical confrontation in the blink of an eye. The field, which had been a place of play just minutes before, became a battlefield for a full-scale clash between the two groups. In the middle of this rising chaos stood a young man named Tommy. Tommy was a member of the Airlords, but more importantly, he was a father. In a decision that would haunt the memory of that day, he had brought his young, tender son to the pitch, perhaps hoping to show the boy a glimpse of a community coming together. Tragedy struck with a cold and sudden brutality. The members of the Black Axe, fueled by the heat of the argument and the long-standing friction between their groups, turned their full aggression toward Tommy. In a heartbreaking turn of events, the confrontation escalated to the point of no return. Tommy was overwhelmed and taken down by his rivals, and the most soul-crushing part of the entire ordeal was that this happened right there on the grounds where he had come to play, quite possibly right before the eyes of his innocent son. This wasn't just a street fight anymore, it was a devastating loss of life that marked a major, dark shift in the conflict, setting the stage for an escalation that Ebute Metta would not soon forget. The dust had barely settled on the football pitch in Ebute Metta before the atmosphere in the entire neighborhood shifted from tense to terrifying. The news of Tommy's fall spread through the streets like a wildfire, leaping from one tenement building to the next. For the Airlords, the loss was personal and heavy, especially because of the heartbreaking circumstances involving Tommy's young son. The grief quickly cuddled into a cold, hard desire for balance. They didn't go home to mourn. Instead, they spilled out into the narrow streets and alleyways with a singular, dark intention to find any member of the rival group and even the score before the sun fully disappeared. This wasn't just a random search, it was an intense, high-stakes hunt. A specialized hit squad from the Airlords, fueled by the adrenaline of the afternoon's tragedy and a thirst for immediate payback, began patrolling the area. They moved with a sense of urgency that told everyone else to stay indoors and lock their doors. They weren't looking for apologies or explanations, they were looking for a target that would hurt the Black Axe as much as they had been hurt. In their minds, the time for dialogue had passed the moment the football match turned into a crime scene. It was during this aggressive sweep of the neighborhood that they spotted a young man known on the streets as Small China. In the hierarchy of Ebute Metta's social landscape, Small China was not a foot soldier or a background character. He was a well-known and high-ranking member of the Black Axe, recognized as their leader within that specific territory. To the Airlords, finding him wasn't just a stroke of luck, it was the ultimate opportunity to send a message that would resonate through the entire city. There was no hesitation when they saw him. The Airlord squad descended upon Small China with an intensity that showed they had completely abandoned any form of restraint. They attacked him with a ferocity that was fueled by hours of built-up resentment and the fresh memory of Tommy's final moments. Small China, despite his status and the respect he commanded within his own group, found himself outnumbered and overwhelmed. In a brutal and decisive confrontation, he was taken down by the Airlords in what was a clear and direct reprisal. By targeting the leader himself, the Airlords weren't just looking for a one-for-one trade, they were striking at the very head of the rival organization. The downfall of Small China changed the nature of the conflict instantly. In the past, there might have been middlemen or elders who could step in to calm the waters, but that bridge had been burned. By taking out a top-tier leader in broad daylight as a response to a field dispute, the Airlords had signaled that the rules of the street had been rewritten. The local residents knew that this was no longer a small-time grudge or a temporary disagreement. This was now a full-scale, all-out battle for dominance in Ebute Metta. The peace of the neighborhood had been traded for a cycle of retaliation that was only just beginning. The news of Small China's downfall hit the Black Axe like a physical blow, leaving the group in a state of wounded fury. The loss of a leader in such a bold, public manner was an insult that they felt could only be washed away with more blood. There was no time for mourning or reflection. The atmosphere in Ebute Metta had turned into a thick, suffocating cloud of vengeance. The members of the Black Axe began to mobilize, their eyes scanning every corner of the neighborhood for anyone they believed was connected to the rival side. They were looking for a target that would hurt the Airlords just as deeply, but in their desperate rush to strike back, their judgment became clouded by anger. It was during this heated, retaliatory sweep that they set their sights on a young man known as Kammo. To the outside observer, and especially to the vengeful eyes of the Black Axe, Kammo seemed like a logical target. He was a familiar face in the area, often seen walking the streets, sharing laughs, and hanging out with known members of the Airlords. In the rigid and dangerous logic of the streets, who you stand next to defines who you are. The Black Axe convinced themselves that Kammo was a secret operative or a committed member of the rival group simply because of the company he kept. They didn't stop to verify, they didn't look for proof. They saw an association, and in their minds, that was a death sentence. However, the reality of Kammo's life was far different from the assumptions made by those hunting him. According to those who truly knew him, his family, his childhood neighbors, and his actual confidants, Kammo was not a member of any secret society. He had never taken any oaths, nor had he ever participated in the activities of the Airlords. He was simply a young man who had grown up in the same neighborhood as some of these people. To him, they were just guys he had known since they were kids, people he shared stories with on the street corner. He likely thought that as long as he didn't join their group, he was safe. He believed that his personal innocence would protect him from a conflict he had no part in. That belief turned out to be a tragic miscalculation. The Black Axe launched a fierce attack on Kammo, treating him with the same level of aggression they would show a high-ranking rival. Because of his closeness to the Airlords, he was caught in a trap he didn't even know was set. The end that met Kammo was sudden, brutal, and completely undeserved, leaving his loved ones to pick up the pieces of a life cut short by a case of mistaken identity. His story serves as a chilling and cautionary warning to everyone. In an environment fueled by rivalry and secret groups, the company you keep can become a shadow that puts your very life at risk. You might think you are just being friendly, but to an enemy, your presence is seen as an alliance. This tragedy brings us to a very important realization for our community. The story of Kammo proves that there are no innocent bystanders once these conflicts begin. Being friends with people involved in these dangerous groups is a massive risk to your own safety, as you can easily be targeted for someone else's actions. We must all take a stand and collectively say no to this way of life. There is no glory in it, only heartbreak and the loss of young potential. We must say no to these secret groups and no to all forms of criminal activity. Let us choose a path of harmony and safety. Let us say a resounding yes to peace, ensuring that no more families have to cry over a mistake that could have been avoided.